During Sunday dinner, my mother pushed my daughter's school award back across the table and declared, "We don't honor strangers. Your cousin is our true star." My daughter simply clutched the award to her chest, her eyes dry, face expressionless. Then my son shoved his chair away, rose up before everyone present, and uttered words that caused my dad's grin to disappear immediately. There are moments in life that just snap something inside you. For me, it was watching my own mother look my sweet daughter, Emma, right in the eye, slide her hard-won debate trophy across the table, and say, "We don't celebrate outsiders. Your cousin is the real star here." But what happened next, when my 10-year-old son, Lucas, pushed back his chair and spoke his truth, made my dad's smug smile vanish right on the spot. My name is David Martinez. I'm 41 years old. And if there's one thing I've learned in 4 decades of breathing, it's this: reliability gets mistaken for weakness. I learned that lesson at my parents' kitchen table. The very same table where I watched my brother get praised for showing up late, while I got silenced for showing up early with the mortgage check. For most of my adult life, I was the one wiring money when the car broke down. I was the emergency contact who always picked up. The dependable son who transferred $3,000 every single month without asking why. My parents called it love. I called it duty. My ex-wife called it enabling, right before she left. Emma is 12 now. Lucas is 10. After their mother walked out 3 years ago, it became just the 3 of us. And let me tell you, they're good kids. Emma won a regional debate trophy last month. Lucas builds robots in his bedroom, leaving wires everywhere. They don't ask why we eat pasta 4 nights a week. They don't know that grandma's house stays warm because I pay the heating bill. My parents live in the same house where I grew up, a 3-bedroom ranch with a sagging porch and a mortgage that should have been paid off a decade ago. My father refinanced twice. The first time was to help my cousin, Marco, open a car detailing shop. The second time was to fund Marco's son, Jeremy's, college tuition at a private university. That kid, Jeremy, graduated last year with a communications degree and no job. My parents framed his diploma and hung it in the living room. My own college degree, the one I earned while working night shifts at a warehouse, is still somewhere in a box in their attic. Sunday dinners at their house started when I was a kid. The tradition continued even after I moved out, got married, had kids, got divorced. My mother sets the table with the same beige plates. My father grills the same bland chicken. And my cousin Marco always shows up late with his wife, Linda, and their golden child, Jeremy. Jeremy is 23. He lives in my parents' basement and pays no rent. He drives the car my father bought him, the same car I helped finance when my father's credit was too bad to get the loan approved. Jeremy calls me Uncle David at family gatherings and borrows $20 for gas every time. I always told myself, that's just what family does. This Sunday, Emma asked if she could bring her trophy to dinner.
She wanted to show Grandma.
I told her yes. Lucas asked if he could skip dinner and stay home to finish his robot. I told him no. Family dinner was important. It mattered. I used to believe that. We drove to my parents' house in my 12-year-old sedan. The one with the cracked windshield and the check engine light that blinks on and off like a warning I keep ignoring. Emma sat in the back with a trophy on her lap, polishing the brass plate with her sleeve. Lucas stared out the window, his headphones on, lost in some song I would never understand. When we pulled into the driveway, Jeremy's brand new truck was already parked in the spot I usually took. I parked on the street. My mother opened the door before I could even knock. She hugged Emma first, then Lucas. She looked at me and smiled the way people smile at furniture. Functional. Familiar. Forgotten. My father was in the kitchen, pulling chicken off the grill. Marco and Linda sat at the table, laughing about something I had already missed. Jeremy stood by the counter, scrolling through his phone. The table was set. The plates were beige. The chicken was bland. And I felt that old ache in my chest. The one that comes from knowing you are needed but not wanted. Emma held the trophy close to her chest. As we walked inside, she was smiling. She thought this moment mattered. I thought that once, too. We sat down at the table in our usual spots. Me at the end across from my father, Emma, and Lucas on my left, Marco, Linda, and Jeremy on the right. My mother brought out the chicken, the rice, the salad no one would eat. She set everything down with the same rehearsed movements she had perfected over 30 years. Emma waited until everyone was served. Then she lifted the trophy from her lap and placed it gently on the table, right next to the salt shaker. The brass caught the light. The engraved plate read, "First place, Regional Middle School Debate Championship." Her name was etched below in clean letters, Emma Martinez. She looked at my mother with wide eyes, proud and hopeful. My mother glanced at the trophy. Then she looked at my father. Then she looked at Jeremy. She reached across the table, picked up the trophy, and slid it back across the surface toward Emma. The brass scraped against the wood. The sound was louder than it should have been. My mother folded her hands and smiled that smile. The one that looks kind from a distance, but cuts up close. "We don't celebrate outsiders here, sweetheart. Your cousin Jeremy is the real star of this family."
The air in the room changed.
It went cold,
Fast.
like someone had opened a window in winter. Emma stared at my mother. Her hands stayed frozen in the air where the trophy had been. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She pulled the trophy back to her chest and held it there, tight, like it might disappear if she let go.
Her eyes stayed dry.
Her face went blank. That scared me more than tears ever could. Lucas stopped chewing. He put his fork down. His jaw tightened. My father chuckled. He actually chuckled. He leaned back in his chair and shook his head like my mother had just told a funny joke. "Emma, honey, your grandma just means we have bigger things to celebrate." Jeremy got an interview at a marketing firm this week. Jeremy smirked. He didn't even look up from his phone. Marco raised his glass. Linda smiled. My mother nodded like she had just solved a problem. I felt my hands go numb. My chest felt tight. My brain was trying to catch up to what had just happened. But the words were stuck somewhere between shock and rage. Emma held the trophy. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just sat there, silent, clutching brass and shame. And then Lucas pushed his chair back. The legs scraped against the floor. Everyone stopped. All eyes turned toward my 10-year-old son as he stood up, small and straight, in front of the entire table. Lucas looked at my mother, then at my father, then at Jeremy. His voice was too calm for a kid his age. "Dad pays for your mortgage. He pays for your car payments. He pays for your medical bills. Every single month. $3,100. Silence. Lucas kept going. "If we're outsiders, why are we paying for the real stars?" My father's smile vanished. His face went pale. He looked at me like I had just betrayed him in front of God and witnesses. My mother opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Marco stopped mid-sip. Linda's smile cracked. Jeremy finally looked up from his phone. I could feel every heartbeat in my chest. My hands were shaking.
My throat was dry.
Lucas stood there waiting. He wasn't angry. He wasn't scared. He was just done.
Emma looked at me.
Her eyes were still dry.
But now there was something else in them.
Something sharp. Something waiting for my answer. My father leaned forward. His voice dropped low, the way it used to when I was a kid, and he was about to tell me to be quiet. "David, control your son." I looked at Lucas. Then at Emma. Then at the beige plates and the bland chicken, and the table I had paid to keep standing. I stood up. Every word he just said is true. Then I picked up my keys. I took Emma's hand. I took Lucas's hand. And I walked out the door. Behind me, I heard my mother call my name. I did not turn around. We sat in the car for 20 minutes after I parked. No one spoke. Emma still held the trophy. Lucas stared straight ahead, his hands folded in his lap like he had just delivered a speech at the United Nations and was now processing the fallout. I gripped the steering wheel, even though the engine was off. My knuckles were white. My chest hurt. My head felt full of static. I kept replaying the moment. The way my mother slid the trophy back. The way my father laughed. The way Emma's face went blank, like someone had turned off a light inside her. I wanted to go back inside that house and flip the table. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask them how they could look at my daughter and call her an outsider. But I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I sat in my car with my 2 kids and felt the full weight of 30 years of being invisible. I thought about all the times I showed up early and left late. The times I wired money without asking questions. The times I skipped my own kids' events because my parents needed help moving furniture or setting up for Marco's birthday party. I thought about the college fund I never started because my father's refinance needed a cosigner. I thought about the vacation I canceled last summer because my mother's car needed a new transmission. I thought about every single time I swallowed my anger and called it love. Emma finally broke the silence. Dad, can we go inside now? Her voice was small, quiet, but steady. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. She was still holding the trophy. Her face was still blank, but her grip had loosened. I nodded. We got out of the car. We walked up the stairs to our apartment. Lucas unlocked the door. Emma went straight to her room and closed the door softly. Lucas sat on the couch and turned on the TV without watching it. I stood in the kitchen and stared at my phone. 3 missed calls from my mother. 2 texts from my father. The text read, "We need to talk. You embarrassed us. Call me back." I did not call back. I opened my banking app instead. I scrolled through my transaction history. 3 years of monthly transfers. 36 months. $3,100 each time. $111,600. I had given them over $100,000 in 3 years. And they called my daughter an outsider. I sat down at the kitchen table. The same table where Emma did her homework. The same table where Lucas built his robots. The same table where I ate pasta 4 nights a week so I could keep my parents' lights on. I thought about what Lucas said. If we're outsiders, why are we paying for the real stars? I thought about Emma's blank face, the way she held that trophy like it was the only proof she mattered. I thought about my father's smile vanishing, my mother's open mouth, the silence that followed the truth. And then I opened my notes app. I started making a list. Mortgage payment, $1,200. Car payment, $450. Car insurance, $210. Health insurance supplement, $340. Utilities, $200. Grocery supplement, $300. Miscellaneous emergency fund, $200. Total, $3,100. Every month, for 3 years. I stared at the list. Then I opened my bank's bill pay settings. I hovered my finger over the cancel button for the mortgage payment. Then I thought about Emma's face, and I pressed it. I did not sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and my phone next to me. I canceled the mortgage payment first. Then the car payment. Then the insurance. Each cancellation sent a confirmation email. I saved every single one in a folder I labeled receipts. By 2 in the morning, I had canceled $3,100 in monthly automatic payments. Every single transfer that had been keeping my parents' world upright. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from something else. Something that felt like power, but tasted like grief. I thought about calling them. I thought about sending a text. I thought about explaining. But then I remembered the way my mother slid the trophy back. I remembered my father's laugh. I remembered Emma's blank face. So, I did nothing. I let the silence do the talking. Monday morning, I woke up to 14 missed calls. My mother, my father, Marco, even Linda. The voicemails started around 6 o'clock in the morning. My mother's voice was tight-clipped. David, the mortgage payment did not go through. Call me immediately. My father's voice was loud, angry. What the hell are you doing? Call me back right now. Marco's voice was confused, almost whiny. Hey man, your parents are freaking out. Something about payments. You good? I deleted every voicemail without listening to the end. I made Emma breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast. She ate quietly, her eyes on her plate. Lucas sat next to her, still processing yesterday in that way kids do when the world shifts under their feet and they're trying to find balance. Emma looked at me halfway through breakfast. Are we going back to Grandma's house?
I shook my head.
Not for a while.
She nodded. She did not ask why.
She just went back to her eggs. Lucas looked at me with those sharp 10-year-old eyes that missed nothing. Did you stop paying for their stuff?
I paused. Then I nodded.
Lucas nodded back. Good. I drove them to school that morning, dropped Emma off first, then Lucas. Watched them walk through the doors into a world that would keep spinning no matter what was happening at home. Then I sat in the parking lot and opened my phone. 22 missed calls now. 6 new voicemails. 11 texts. The texts were escalating. My father. Call me now or I'm coming to your apartment. My mother. You're being childish and cruel. Marco. Dude, what's going on? They're losing it. I ignored all of them. I opened my banking app again. I checked my account balance. For the first time in 3 years, I had more than $200 left after bills. I stared at that number. $3,100 still in my account. Money that used to disappear every month like clockwork. I felt something crack. Open in my chest. It was not relief. It was not satisfaction. It was something colder, sharper. It was the realization that I had been funding my own invisibility. I drove to work. I sat at my desk. I answered emails. I attended meetings. I pretended everything was normal. But my phone kept buzzing. My parents kept calling. And with every ignored call, I felt the power shift. By Tuesday morning, my father left a voicemail that was different. His voice was quieter. Strained. David, please. We need to talk. The bank called. The mortgage is overdue. Just call me back. I saved the voicemail. Then I went back to work. They showed up at my apartment on Tuesday night. I was making spaghetti when I heard the knock. 3 sharp raps. Impatient. Entitled. I looked through the peephole. My father stood there with my mother beside him.
His face was red.
Her arms were crossed. I opened the door, but did not step aside. My father spoke first. His voice was loud, too loud for the hallway. What the hell do you think you're doing? I looked at him, then at my mother. Neither of them looked sorry. They looked inconvenienced. I stopped paying your bills. My mother's face twisted. You can't just do that. We have an arrangement. I almost laughed. Almost. We never had an arrangement. You had an expectation. I had a sense of obligation. One of those things just ended. My father stepped closer. He pointed his finger at me, the same way he used to when I was 16 and missed curfew. You are going to fix this right now. You are going to call the bank and reinstate those payments. I stayed in the doorway. I did not move.
No.
The word hung in the air like smoke. My mother's voice went shrill. We raised you. We fed you. We gave you a home. You owe us.
I felt something snap inside me. Clean.
Final. I gave you $111,000 over the last 3 years. I don't owe you anything. My father's face went pale. My mother opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I kept going. I paid your mortgage while my kids ate pasta 4 nights a week. I paid your car insurance while my windshield stayed cracked. I funded Jeremy's college while Emma's debate trophy got called outsider memorabilia. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Fake ones, the kind she used to use when I was a kid, and she wanted me to feel guilty for asking for new shoes. How can you be so cruel? We're your parents. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized I did not recognize the person standing in front of me. You slid my daughter's trophy back across the table and told her she didn't matter. You laughed when my father dismissed her. You let Jeremy sit there and smirk while my son had to defend our existence. My father tried to interrupt. I held up my hand. I'm done. I'm done being the emergency fund you never thank. I'm done being the backup plan you never respect. I'm done being invisible. My mother stepped forward. Her voice dropped low, venomous. If you do this, you're not welcome in this family anymore. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I looked at my father. I was never welcome. I was just useful. Then I stepped back and closed the door. I heard my mother's voice through the wood. She was yelling. My father was pounding on the door. The sound echoed through the hallway. I walked back to the kitchen. I turned off the stove. I checked on Emma and Lucas. They were in their rooms, headphones on, pretending they couldn't hear. I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I pulled up the folder labeled Receipts. I opened a new document, and I started writing everything down. Dates, amounts, conversations, promises, lies. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." I put the phone face down on the table. Then I went back to building my case. I spent the next 3 days building a fortress out of paperwork. Bank statements, canceled checks, transfer confirmations, text message screenshots, voicemails saved and time-stamped. Every single piece of evidence that proved I had been their safety net for 3 years while they treated me like I didn't exist. I printed everything. I organized it by category: mortgage payments in one folder, car payments in another, insurance, utilities, grocery supplements, emergency transfers for things like broken water heaters, and vet bills for a dog they no longer even owned. I added up the numbers again. $111,600. But that was just the last 3 years. If I went back further, back to when I was 25, and my father first asked me to co-sign a loan, the number climbed closer to $200,000. $200,000 gone, evaporated into a house that was never mine, and a life that never included me unless they needed something. I sat at the kitchen table every night after Emma and Lucas went to bed. I built spreadsheets. I highlighted discrepancies. I found records of transfers my parents claimed never happened. I found emails where my mother promised to pay me back and never did. I found a text from 2 years ago where my father wrote, "Your family, David. Family helps family." I printed that text. I put it at the front of the folder. On Wednesday, my mother called again. I did not answer. She left a voicemail. "David, the car insurance lapsed. Your father got pulled over. We're going to get fined. Please just reinstate it." I saved the voicemail. I did not call back. On Thursday, Marco texted me, "Dude, your parents are in a bad spot. Can you just help them out? Whatever happened at dinner? It's not worth this." I stared at that text for a long time. Marco, my cousin, the guy whose son lived rent-free in my parents' basement. The guy whose business loan came from my father's refinance, which came from my co-sign credit. I typed back, "Did Jeremy ever apologize to Emma?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. I put my phone down. On Friday, my mother showed up at my office. She walked past the receptionist, past the cubicles, straight to my desk. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking. She sat down in the chair across from me, without asking. "David, please. The bank is threatening foreclosure. We need you." I looked at her. I did not feel anger anymore. I felt nothing. "Did you call Emma and apologize?" She blinked. "What? Did you call my daughter and tell her you were sorry for humiliating her in front of the entire family?" My mother's face tightened. "This is not about Emma. This is about us losing our house." I leaned back in my chair. "It was always about Emma and Lucas and me. But you never noticed because we weren't Jeremy." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "You're being petty. I'm being done." She stood up. Her voice cracked. "You're going to regret this." "I already regret the last 20 years. She turned and walked out. I watched her go. I felt the eyes of my coworkers on me. I did not care. I went back to my desk and opened the folder on my computer labeled Final Steps. Inside were 3 documents. The first was a letter. The second was a detailed financial breakdown. The third was a list of every bill I had been paying with. Cancellation dates highlighted in red. I had one more move to make, one final piece to put in place before this whole thing collapsed on them the way it should have years ago. I opened my email. I typed in my parents' email addresses. I attached the financial breakdown. In the subject line, I wrote, "The real cost of being family." Then I hovered my finger over the send button. I did not press it yet. Not yet. I needed them to understand what was coming. I needed them to feel the ground shift under their feet the way Emma felt it when that trophy slid back across the table. Saturday morning, I pressed send. The email went out at 8 o'clock in the morning. I attached the financial breakdown. Every transaction, every transfer, every canceled check, every emergency wire. 3 years of receipts organized by month, categorized by expense. At the bottom of the email, I wrote one line. This is what outsiders paid to keep the real stars comfortable. Then I copied Marco. I copied Linda. I copied Jeremy. I wanted them all to see it. I wanted them to sit with the numbers. I wanted them to understand exactly how much of their comfortable lives had been built on my back while they smiled at me like I was furniture. I made Emma and Lucas breakfast. Pancakes this time. Emma ate quietly. Lucas asked if we could go to the park later. I nodded. My phone started buzzing at 8:30. My mother, my father, Marco. I ignored every call. At 9:15, my father sent a text. We need to meet today. This is not a conversation we can have over the phone. I replied, your house. Noon. At 11:45, I got in the car. Emma and Lucas stayed home. I told them I would be back in an hour. Emma looked at me with those smart 12-year-old eyes. Are you going to yell at them? I shook my head. I'm going to let the numbers do the talking. I drove to my parents' house. The same house I grew up in. The same house I had been paying to keep standing. The driveway was full. My father's car, my mother's car, Marco's car, Jeremy's truck. They were all there, waiting. I parked on the street. I walked up to the door. It opened before I knocked. My father stood there. His face was tight. His jaw was clenched. Get inside. I walked in. The living room was full. My mother sat on the couch, her arms crossed. Marco and Linda sat on the love seat. Jeremy leaned against the wall, his phone in his hand. No one was smiling. I sat down in the chair by the window, the same chair I used to sit in as a kid when my father lectured me about responsibility. My father stood in the center of the room. He held a printed copy of the email I sent. The pages were crumpled in his fist. What the hell is this? It's a receipt. For 20 years of being the family aita. My mother's voice was sharp. You sent this to everyone. You humiliated us. I looked at her. I know what humiliation feels like. I watched my daughter experience it at this table 6 days ago. Marco leaned forward. David, man, this is between you and your parents. Why drag us into it? I looked at him, then at Linda, then at Jeremy. Because you benefited. Every single one of you. Jeremy lives here rent-free. Marco, your business loan came from a refinance I co-signed. Linda, the car you drive was financed through a loan my father took out using my credit. You all sat at that table and watched my mother dismiss my daughter, and none of you said a word. Silence. Jeremy finally looked up from his phone. Dude, I didn't ask for any of that. You didn't have to. You just took it. My father slammed the papers down on the coffee table. Enough. You made your point. Now fix this. Reinstate the payments. Call the bank. We can work this out. I stood up. I looked at each of them, one by one. I'm not fixing anything. The mortgage is your responsibility now. The car payment is your responsibility. The insurance, the utilities, all of it. I'm done. My mother's voice broke. We're going to lose the house. Then sell it. Downsize. Get an apartment. Do what millions of people do when they can't afford their lifestyle. My father stepped closer. His face was red. His fists were clenched. You do this, and you're not our son anymore. I felt the words hit me, but they didn't hurt the way he wanted them to. I haven't been your son for a long time. I've been your bank. I turned and walked toward the door. My mother called my name. My father yelled something about regret and consequences and family loyalty. I opened the door. I stepped outside. I closed it behind me, and I felt lighter than I had in 20 years. I got in my car. I drove home. I picked up Emma and Lucas. We went to the park. Emma brought her trophy. She set it on the picnic table while we ate sandwiches. Lucas looked at it, then at me. Do you think they'll ever say sorry? I don't know, but it doesn't matter anymore. Emma nodded. She picked up the trophy and held it up to the sunlight. It's still shiny. Yeah, it is. 3 weeks passed. My parents' calls stopped after the first week. Marco sent one more text asking if I would reconsider. I did not reply. Jeremy unfriended me on social media. I didn't notice until Lucas pointed it out. The mortgage went into default. My father tried to refinance again, but his credit was too damaged. The bank sent a foreclosure notice. My mother called me one last time, her voice desperate, begging me to co-sign a loan modification.
I said no.
Then I blocked her number. They sold the house a month later. They moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Jeremy moved out and got a roommate. Marco stopped answering my father's calls. I heard all of this through a cousin I barely knew. Someone who reached out to tell me the family was talking about me, calling me selfish, calling me cruel. I did not correct them. Emma went back to school. She joined the debate team again. She won another trophy. This one is on the mantle in our living room, right next to the first one. Lucas finished his robot. It doesn't do much. It spins in circles and beeps, but he is proud of it. I started saving money. Real money. The kind that doesn't disappear into someone else's emergency. I opened a college fund for Emma, then one for Lucas. I took them on a weekend trip to the beach. We stayed in a cheap motel and ate fast food and collected shells. Emma found a sand dollar. Lucas built a castle that got washed away by the tide. It was the best weekend I had had in years. I didn't miss my parents. I thought I would. I thought there would be this gaping hole where they used to be, but there isn't. There is just space. Quiet space. Space I am filling with my kids and our life, and the things that actually matter. Emma asked me once if I was sad about what happened. I told her the truth. I was sad about what could have been, but I was not sad about what is. She nodded. Then she went back to her homework. I thought about those Sunday dinners, the beige plates, the bland chicken, the table I paid to keep standing. I thought about the way my mother slid the trophy back. The way my father laughed. The way they called my daughter an outsider. And I realized something. They were right. We were outsiders. We always had been. But that was okay. Because being an outsider meant we were free. I am 41 years old. I have 2 kids. I have a cracked windshield and a check engine light that blinks on and off. But I also have $3,100 in my bank account every month. And a daughter who knows her trophies matter. And a son who knows how to stand up and speak the truth. And that is enough. That is more than enough.